Warning. The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect that of the HHN-TV or its constituent entities. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody. I'm Drew Duncan. The show is Underground Sports, and we are live. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan Radio. I'm wherever you're listening to podcasts. Take a device to play Underground Sports by Drew Duncan, or you can just Google Underground Sports by Drew Duncan. Promise I'm going to pop right up, my man. Plenty to get to today. Miami, they have released an official statement about the Tyreek Hill situation. We're going to continue to keep an eye on that as it develops even further. We're going to be talking about Coach Prime. Did he or did he not tell the band not to play? We're going to be talking about Sherrone Moore and his alleged contract situation going on with the Michigan Wolverines. We're going to be talking more Michigan football as a lawsuit is going on with former players. $50 million is what they're suing the NCAA for. We're going to be talking about Peyton Thorne. Supposedly, people are DMing him, wanting money back on lost parlays. Mahomes and Raiola, that situation's starting to get a little bit weird. Potentially, Justin Fields might be starting again this weekend against Denver. The NBA and their new challenge rules. Trae Young says if he was 6'8", he'd be the best player in the NBA. So we're going to be getting into that as well. Plenty to get to. Right, so first thing is first, Sherrone Moore. Look, the news about this whole contract resurfaced right around August. So I want to be clear. Back in January, ESPN and other sources, Yahoo, etc., they all reported that Sherrone Moore was under a new deal that was worth $6 million supposedly. There was $5 million in other benefits, $500,000 base salary. There were all these other things that he could do to earn extra funds, $1 million here, $250K there, etc. It was this whole thing, right? Well, then the USA Today reported back in August, right before they were getting ready to play their first game, basically, that Sherrone Moore was not under official contract, that he instead was under a memorandum. Well, what is a memorandum? Generally, that's used for sales. And technically, in sales, it's a binding contract. Then he was asked about it by Pat McAfee right before they played Texas. Pat McAfee said he didn't want to be a buzzkill, but hey, man, there's stuff going on about this contract. And Sherrone Moore said, well, we have an understanding. Well, then Michigan used the same verbiage. They said, look, we have an understanding. Then they admitted that they didn't have a contract with Sherrone Moore. And then they said it was all because of all the other things that were going on, the allegations with the NCAA and the alleged sign stealing and all this stuff with Jim Harbaugh and all the other things that they were doing, et cetera, et cetera. So then it was kind of like, okay, I started looking a little deeper. Well, then what I found out was what he had is what's called an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, which is why Sherrone Moore used the word understanding, which is why Michigan used the word understanding. And what is a memorandum of understanding? Essentially, it's a handshake. It's a contract that states, yes, Sherrone Moore is getting paid, but what they're doing is they're omitting a couple of little details in there. He doesn't have a concrete contract. A memorandum of understanding can be broken by either party like that. Literally, Sherrone Moore can wake up tomorrow morning, go to hell with this. I'm not dealing with it. I'm out in the contract. Michigan simultaneously can do the exact same thing. A memorandum of understanding. You know, last week I said that I felt like Michigan was taking advantage of Sherrone Moore. Now, my thing about taking advantage of Sherrone Moore was basically knowing that Sharon can't go anywhere else because he was suspended for one game to start the season last year. Basically, he's going to get lumped into this investigation with the NCAA. He's already said that he's looking forward to the deleted text messages coming out, which tells me that the NCAA has probably gone and got a court order to get these text messages one way or the other. Some sort of backup file somewhere. I mean, something. Somehow, some way, it's going to come out. Somebody's got a text somewhere, right? Regardless of how they're going to do it, they're going to do it. Let's not forget in the documentary, there is the potential predicated upon what was at the end of that documentary that the NCAA illegally obtained information from Connor Stallions. There was the whole thing about his computer being hacked. And let's not forget that Michigan, initially, when all this happened, they claimed that they fired Connor Stallions. Then come to find out, he withdrew himself. So they were trying to put everybody on notice that, hey, we're doing the right thing. We're taking the right steps. We're implementing all this stuff. We're creating self-suspensions. We're doing all this. We're taking initiative with Jim Harbaugh. We're doing this. We're doing that. And I just said, look, this whole thing makes you look guilty by doing all this. Anytime you see a collegiate program do this stuff, that means that they are afraid of all the other consequences. But it looked to me like nothing could really be proven, especially since Harbaugh supposedly wasn't cooperating, but also supposedly was, right? The NCAA said initially he gave potentially misleading information on purpose. Then they said that he didn't want to cooperate. So the whole thing right now in Michigan is a complete mess. And the taking advantage of Sharon Moore is not only knowing that he can't go anywhere else because who the hell's going to hire him right now after what the NCAA just did to Jim Harbaugh? Because if they come down on him the exact same way, it's going to be a pointless hire because he's not even going to be able to coach. And the MOU that they basically agreed on is Michigan's way of going, in case it all hits the fan, we can use you as a scapegoat. We'll be able to back out of this quick, and that'll be it. And they won't have to sit around and pay him money on a contract that he's not coaching on. So Michigan is very much CYA right now. Cover your ass. That is exactly what they are doing, and they're being clever by just omitting certain details. Then they're backtracking, they're backpedaling. And if anybody saw that interview, Sharon Moore just looked very shaky when he answered that question. But the reason why he used the word understanding is because that's exactly what they have. Now, on record, the only other coach that I could find that as of the moment has a memorandum of understanding or had was Pioji out of, was it Charlotte? University of North Carolina, Charlotte, as their football coach. He was the only other one that I could find. And yes, again, I want to reiterate, you're getting paid on it. He's not working for free. They're paying him. But what they did was they just laid out a list of duties. And let's not forget that Harbaugh, through all of this, allegedly wanted in his contract a clause that said, if it goes down, you can't fire me. In other words, I'm going to get paid no matter what. He ends up going to the NFL. Sharon sticks around. Now they don't have an official contract. Let that sink in. They are using him because they need a head football coach, and nobody is going to go to Michigan right now and take on that job, and they know it. Because the ship is sinking. The NCAA has been investigating this since last season. They're not going away. Speaking of the omission of details, look, there's been a lot about whether or not Deion Sanders instructed Colorado's band not to play so that way Shador's rap song could come on. Now, look, I watched that game live as it all happened. And there were times when I thought, it doesn't sound like the band is playing, like there's rap music going on. Then I went back and I watched the football game again from the recording that I had on YouTube TV. Then I went back and followed a lead on another source that had highlights of the game whenever Shador would throw a touchdown pass. And from what I heard, the rap song was playing, and then when the field goal happened, then the band started playing. Now, Colorado's already come out and said, hey, man, this is all BS. It's not happening. Nobody said that. Prime has said that it's idiotic. He accused journalists of not doing their due diligence, and that a lot of people are basically, what he's really saying here is they're in this for clicks and they don't care about getting the information correct. They're just putting it all out there, which, as somebody who's formerly trained in the media, I can attest that it does happen, whether people like it or not. It's the name of the game. Whether or not he instructed them to, I mean, he did say that the band, sometimes they don't know what's going on. I mean, I can't imagine them not knowing, hey, it's time to play a song because our team just scored a touchdown. I can't imagine them not knowing that. Now, there were other times when they would just, like, for a split second, play Shador's track, then into the band. Look, the reality here is it's not even about whether or not he's doing this, and that's being over the top petty. It's not about whether or not he's doing this to promote his son. It's not about whether or not he's going to be around next season. It's not going to be any of that. It is the immediate implosion of this whole situation. Last season, you couldn't find a bigger supporter of Prime and what was going on. Hell, even when he was at Jackson State, you couldn't find a bigger supporter. He was dealing with a lot of hate from people then. He had Snoop Dogg in the locker room and a host of other guys. I mean, he carried all that over to Colorado. But then he started getting different hate. He was getting hate from everybody. And to me, the entire NCAA was headhunting against Prime last year. I mean, who goes for a fake punt on fourth down? What was Oregon on? Like their own 15-yard line? Was the line of scrimmage? You got a punter 10 yards back damn near the goal line, and you're going for a fake punt? You're doing everything you can to ensure the silence. Nobody is going to be able to unconvince me that Jay Norvell in Colorado State was not headhunting. Because it absolutely went down that way. I still maintain that. But at some point, we got to get honest about what's going on here. What is happening now is because of all this other extra, everything that happens, every little thing, whether it's alleged or not, whether it happened or not, is going to explode. And then on top of that, you have the added element that it is Deion Sanders. One of the biggest stars in the world, folks, especially here in the States. Love him or hate him, he is a household name. And look, Deion's not above being petty, right? Remember when Gurley went to Atlanta? That trade happened, and it was during the pandemic. And to signify his playing days in Georgia, which obviously Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, Gurley had worn the number 3. He wore 21 for 2+1, and Prime is like, nah, that's my number, bro. What are you doing? You're in Atlanta wearing my number. I'm not gonna stand for that. Okay, yeah, you're right, bro. Because, we're in the middle of a pandemic and people are struggling, but your brand recognition is what matters right now. Okay? I'm not saying Prime has never been not petty. Whether or not this whole thing happened, who knows? There's nothing out there that is concrete that suggests that this went down. The only thing that we can really go off of is what we heard. We didn't hear the band play after every single touchdown immediately. They definitely played after the extra points, right? We know that much. I guess we'll see what happens. Look, I guess I don't know what to think about this anymore. I really don't. I'm to a point with it where I don't even know if I care. You know, people are talking about, man, they beat Nebraska last year. Nebraska's a different football team this year. They are a completely different football team. They are at least a better team this year than they were a season ago. I don't know if they beat Colorado State this weekend or not, if I'm being honest with you. Again, I maintain that if Norvell hadn't have done what he did, Colorado State would have beat the Buffs outright in their backyard. But they beat themselves with stupid-ass penalties. I don't know that we see that again this year. Prime is unsettling to a lot of people because he was willing to do things and change the game and go against the grain. But I think that there were a lot of people out there, especially in the coaching world, who felt like you shouldn't be doing this. It's not right. Well, it doesn't matter what you think is right. That team was horrendous. He overhauled the roster. But after that, though, you got to let it play out a little bit. And with the overhauling again, to me, it's symptomatic of he's not going to be there long. And if he's not there after this season and he's not coaching anywhere, then it's 100% going to look like, okay, bro, you just got your kids to the league. Congratulations. And I'm going to keep it a buck. I don't think Shador needed Prime's help. To me, he's good enough. He's got some things. He's got some things that he has to clean up. But I still think he's good enough. He didn't need his dad. But it is what it is. Whether or not he did it, who the hell knows? We know what we saw, and that's really about it. I mean, that to me is the bottom line. It is what it is. I guess more than anything, what he pointed out is symptomatic of a bigger problem in the media. And that is simply this. Who gives a damn about right and wrong? I mean, how many times have we seen allegations pop up against an athlete like old boy in Frisco, and everybody hoot and hollered about what a animal he was and a thug and all this other BS, and then come to find out what really happened was all of his money got took. It's why I never jump the gun on anything. It's called responsible reporting. But unfortunately, that's gotten lost. And to that point, I'm with Prime 100%. I still think he has a great influence on young men. I still think that he does really care about these young individuals. It's just unfortunate the way that he's done some other things because it's not working out. Again, the definition of crazy is doing the exact same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. All right, real quick here. So Braylon Edwards, Denard Robinson, they're a part of a $50 million lawsuit. Now, their lawyer is very clear about this. We're not suing Michigan. We are suing the NCAA. We are suing the Big Ten. What they are wanting is present and future compensation for revenue for NIL. They maintain that it's from broadcasting ads and merch that were all sold prior, that they were not allowed to make money on their NIL. Well, look, this has been going on now for about 6 months. There's been a lot of lawsuits that are out there. One of the things that I have talked about is you are not, and I mean this, you are not going to say, okay, here's all this money floating around now for all these new young bucks that are coming up, right? Because their attorney, he said, they rectified it. Now other people get to, but they still have to deal with the past, right? That's what he's saying. And that's their position. Now you have all these lawsuits that are coming up. To me, it's like, okay, you allowed this influx of all this money to start floating around, and there's no way you didn't think to yourself, there's not going to be any backlash. There's not going to be any lawsuits. Now, let's not forget how a good majority of this started. O'Bannon, one of his buddies was like, dude, you know, this guy looks exactly like you on this video game. Did you ever get paid for this? It's your number, the way you wear your band. It looks exactly like you. How are you not getting paid? Now, when they sued, so many people were making fun of the situation. They were going, oh, what everybody get, $350? And back then I said, you got to understand, this is not about the $350. This is about starting what is right. The NCAA had free labor for years. Don't talk to me about the education aspect when half the time these guys can't even get to class because they're that big of a megastar. You're on a campus with 30,000 students. You're recognized by even 5,000 of them. You think that guy's going to be able to get to class no problem? It was to the point where Angel Reese was like, dude, I can't even go to class. I got to do everything online. I'm a distraction. I'm a problem while I'm there. You think she was the first one to have to live like that? Then on top of that, they were doing all these free interviews, ESPN, CBS Sports, Fox Sports. They got these big promos ahead of all these games, which is one of the things that they talked about in this lawsuit. Yeah, they've got all these promos and all this flashy stuff, and it makes everybody want to watch this game. It makes them want to watch the Final Four, the college football championship, all this stuff, right? They're being treated like professionals, but they're being told you're not a professional, you're an amateur, so you can't make money because you're a student athlete. A blanket term. Everything. That's the response to it all because he's a student athlete. That's why. Well, no, it's because he's a student athlete. That's why. Bro, he can't do that. He's a student athlete. That's why. Making 18-year-olds who are lawfully allowed to sign a contract saying you're not allowed to sign any other contracts to make money. Only we get to do that. Now, whether or not Braylon and Denard and a few others that are all at the University of Michigan, whether they'll be successful or not, I don't know. Their lawyer has said that they anticipate that a lot of this is going to happen. It's already been kind of happening. They're claiming it's the first, but it's not. There's been other suits that I've been talking about with the NCAA, former athletes. They want, damages from basically rearage from the past. That's what they're looking for is previous compensation, what they could have made collectively, right? That's a big part of the lawsuit that's been going on now for a little while. Because part of that lawsuit states is if this thing goes through, then anybody that played before 2017, they can't come back and sue the NCAA. So that's why you're seeing this now, because they're well aware of what's happening. And so they're trying to get in on that before the opportunity goes away, because that window is closing, and it is closing quickly, depending on what this judge does. And then on top of that, you've got the potential right now where I think it was, there was already a school, was it Dartmouth, that they were able to pass a thing saying, yes, they can unionize. Well, I mean, once they unionize, now we're talking about practice conditions, salaries. They're going to be able to negotiate for all that stuff. You've already got Mike Gundy pissed off. Hey, tell your agents, quit calling. There's no more money until December. Leave it alone. What you got is what you got. We're not giving you anything else. We're not reworking deals. We're not doing any of that. We're about football right now. Well, a part of me gets it, what he's saying. A part of me is just like, here's the thing. The bottom line here is so many people are talking about how this is out of control and there's no limit to it and it's a free-for-all. Had the NCAA done the right thing years ago, it wouldn't matter, because now it would all be under control. It would have died down. All these lawsuits would be gone. The NIL thing would be under control. There would be salary caps to be had, revenues to be had. All these contracts would have been worked out, and everybody would know what they're getting into. The NCAA has nobody to blame but themselves for all of this, because they waited years and years and years. And again, everybody, look, you can say what you want to about Condoleezza Rice, the politician. Fine. Whatever you want. The reality is, when she did this, I think I was one of the few people, and I'm talking few, who said she's not playing. She got up there with other members of Congress and said, you are going to allow them to start making money, or we, the United States government, we're going to step in, and we are going to force your hand whether you like this or not. It was a reality check that nobody took seriously. Except me. I was like, what did everybody else hear? Because I heard her say, you do this or we're coming in. And we're going to allow it. And we're going to mandate it. And we're going to dictate it. So you better hurry up and figure it out. And they did. Took them all these years to do the right thing. This is the result of waiting and waiting and waiting. Sweeping all this under the rug, student-athlete BS. Again, it's a little outdated, but if you're still not convinced, there is a very good documentary called Schooled, The Price of College Athletics. It is a phenomenal watch. I'd say about 90% of what that documentary is and what's in it still holds up to this day. That kid that got injured out of TCU back in the 70s couldn't sue the school as an employee. Landed on his head, paralyzed, rest of his life. Couldn't sue the school as an employee. Look what happened to Maurice Clarett and how quickly Ohio State turned on him. No, there's no way for you to convince me. They get treated like dogs. What did Stone Cold say? You treat me like a... Yeah. You treat me like a dog and you expect me to smile? You remind me of a jackass. Very simple. You can't beat somebody in a submission constantly and then expect nothing back. And I hate to break it to people, but college pride is still a thing. Didn't you see the Miami-Florida game? Those kids walking out, hey, don't go here, come to the U. Come to the U. Had kids from Florida throwing up the U. That's college football, baby. Texas running into the middle of Michigan. Bam, flag right in the middle of it. That's college football, baby. It's still there. You're just paying attention to the wrong stuff. That's why you're so damn mad about everything else. Speaking of all this money and everything else, boy, I tell you what, you want to talk about people getting petty. This is what they're worried about. So Peyton Thorne alleges that whenever somebody takes an L on their parlay or whatever bet they made, they start sliding into his DMs going, hey, bro, I'm going to need that from you on Venmo. Literally requesting money. Nobody told you to bet, man. Nobody told you to gamble. When I go to the casino, I take $20. I don't go to the blackjack table. At least I haven't in years. I don't do anything. I walk over to the slots. I stick a 20 in there, the little thing that they give you and you put it in or whatever. It's a little cash deal. Whatever I leave with is whatever I leave with. I get up a certain amount. I give myself a cap to come down on. Boom, that's it. I walk away scot-free. And if I lose $20, well, then it was $20. It's so easy to gamble now. All you got to do is be 18, have a debit card, download the app, boom. That's it. Now, obviously, there are some states that don't allow it, but even then, the state of Missouri, one of the states that doesn't allow it, it looks like it's going to come to pass that potentially they'll be able to start sports betting on apps and stuff like that. So there's that. I'm not saying I believe him. I'm not saying I don't. I can go off of my own experiences. I have been said things in my DMs that you would not even believe. Things I cannot repeat that would get me kicked off of the air forever. I had one guy tell me to get on my knees and cleanse myself because of what I said about Georgia and Florida State. Bro, you ain't got nothing else to do on a Saturday night. You worried about me? Shouldn't you be out trying to get laid, bro? What the fuck you doing worrying about me for? It's Saturday. For me on Saturday, I got a job to do. I got to watch football. Like, I have to watch this. Shouldn't you be concentrating on macking on a female or tending to your family or, I got to wake up in the morning and cut the lawn? I mean, whatever the hell, it's something. There's got to be something better that you could do than to be into my DMs. Whatever it is, bro, you're the one who looks pathetic, not me. People really need to slow down. Look, I said a lot for years that, look, you look at all these guys that are mad at these athletes and they get pissed off and they call them bums and this and that and the third. I always ask, how much money did you lose on the bet, man? I mean, I remember very vividly one year there was a game specifically that I had talked about on the radio, and old boy was pissed, and I was talking about the matchup issues and all that stuff. He's like, man, he threw for 400-something yards last week. What in the hell's going on this week? I was like, bro, you should have come to me. You can't just walk around looking at stats and what happened the week prior. You got to look at who they're going up against this weekend. Yeah, you got to start dissecting the actual game, amigo. Look, man, if you think an athlete owes you money back on a bet that you lost, then I have some property that is right next to a beach in North Dakota. Love to sell it to you. I will give you a phenomenal fucking deal on it. Phenomenal. Deal of a lifetime. And it's not a timeshare, I promise you. It is front beach property, my man. Right there, North Dakota. Don't worry about January and what it's like there. You'll be fine. You'll be good. I promise you. It's not far from the university either. North Dakota State. Not far. You'll be right there for all the games. I promise you. Get out of here. Chill out. You know what I mean? Sliding into a 20-year-old's DM. Man, can you give me money back on that parlay? Who has the balls, man? You got to be drunk to me to do something like that. There's just no other way in hell. You got to be drunk on your ass to hit up somebody that you don't know, asking them for money back on a bet that you lost. Now, maybe they said it jokingly, but he's claiming that he's getting Venmo information. Now, I would love to see the screenshot. I really would, especially if it's legit, because that's just weird. And speaking of weird, I got to get this off of my chest really quick here. What in the hell is the deal with the Mahomes-Raiola situation, the quarterback out of Nebraska? They are trying to figure out any little way that they can to compare him to Mahomes. Y'all act like Patrick Mahomes is the only one with that haircut on planet Earth. This obsession is getting weird. And then did you see where they showed the video, the side-by-side of them both doing the exact same jump? And then they asked him, hey, are you wearing 15 because of Mahomes? He's like, no, I'm wearing 15 for Tebow. Which could have absolutely made sense. I mean, given the kid's age, Tebow could have been his guy, especially in college. I mean, a lot of people would tell you he wasn't that great in the NFL, but Tebow was one of the greatest college football players probably of all time. Then everybody in the comment section, oh, that's a lie, that's a lie. Then the media's getting weird about it, how they keep making the comparisons and talking about their friendship and looking for throwing motions and all this other. Like, it's kind of bizarre. Maybe that's just me to think about that, but it's kind of a weird obsession, bro. I don't know. That's just me, though, I guess. Not something I would have went with, but, it is what it is. All right, real quick here. Caleb Nix with the Clemson Tigers, according to Coach Dabo Swinney, he's out for the season with an ACL tear that he supposedly played on while for the rest of the game, and just it went unnoticed. Now, how in the hell does that even happen? KD couldn't get up. It ended Aaron Rodgers' season a year ago. I know somebody out there's going to go, well, Kobe shot the free throw. Look, I'm not saying that Kobe's not a bad dude, okay? R.I.P. Kobe. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to bash Kobe, okay? I'm not going to say that it was any easier to be at that free throw line, but getting hit like that, again, running up and down the court, I'm just saying it because afterwards, he was done, bro. It's really weird to me. How the hell? I start thinking about Gronk, the story that he was telling. Saw that video about 2 weeks ago where he got hurt from a hip drop tackle, and he was like, give me the shot. Like, you know how Gronk, like, always, I'm Gronk, ooh. But, he was telling the story, and he's like, give me the shot. I'm good. And no, he was out. I'm really suspicious of this. I really am. I don't know what to make of that. Are you hyped up? Are you hopped up? Is it adrenaline? How do you play a full game of football basically with an ACL tear, bro? Adrian Peterson was out. He had to get comeback player of the year because he tore his ACL and couldn't play the rest of the season. Next year, he got comeback player of the year. What in the hell? And Brody just, I'm good, coach. I'm fine. I don't know what the hell's going on. And then I start thinking even further. I'm like, okay, now what does that do for his career going forward? How are you injured? Like, is this a career thing now? Like, did you potentially just end it all in one game? I don't know. More questions than answers with that, so I can't wait to see for more to come out on that because, damn, son. He's either the baddest motherfucker who's ever lived or something else is going on. Those are the only logical explanations that I can come up with. This guy is either the Incredible Hulk or they hulked him up. Seriously. All right. Looks like Justin Fields might be starting again for the Pittsburgh Steelers. A little weird to me, but I don't know, man. First of all, we all know the implications of Russ going back to Denver. Simultaneously, I think everybody saw how Bo Nix played last weekend. Horrendous. 3 turnovers. One of the interceptions was so bad that when it was thrown, you heard the announcer go, oh, no. Because he knew. I know where this is going, and I know how this ends. So there's that. Look, I found it weird that Russ was suited up, but he was listed as unavailable. He was out. Okay, but if Justin Fields would have got hurt, would Russ have gone in? And now he might be starting this weekend again. So now I have to wonder, because I saw Russ on the sideline really hyping everybody up, talking good to everybody, kind of coaching everybody up, doing all that stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, something is off here. Was he really the starter at the beginning of the season, or was it Justin Fields? And maybe Tomlin just didn't want to do him a disservice. Maybe he didn't have the heart to tell the world, hey, man, you're not even better than Justin Fields right now, bro. We can't. It's a distinct possibility. I'm not saying it's for certain, but it's a distinct possibility. Now we also have to wonder how serious is this injury to Russ, and I do put it in quotations, but, who the hell knows? And let's not forget, they didn't have an offensive touchdown last week. So they won predicated upon their defense, some turnovers, Kirk Cousins played horrendous football. I did give credit to the Pittsburgh Steelers defense because they deserve it. They disrupted everything. But I'm not saying this weekend is a gimme with Denver. Maybe that's another thing. Maybe Tomlin's not really worried about it. Maybe he's going, look, I don't think that this is going to affect us one way or the other. We're good to go. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just find this really, really weird that Russ isn't starting after being named the starter, after being told he's not going to be able to go, but then being in uniform, and now Justin Fields potentially is going to start again this weekend. Now, here's one thing that I've always said, that if a player is hurt, then they shouldn't come back until they're truly ready. I've seen careers ruined before because players came back way too soon. It was one of my concerns when I talked about Patrick Mahomes a couple of years ago. I think they were getting ready to play against Tampa Bay. He had, suffered a concussion and all that stuff. And then, 3 days later, he's fine. Okay, here we go. Well, sorry, dude. I got, reports that I've done on concussions and spoke with doctors about concussions. Shouldn't just be going right back in. A few days go by, you're cool. You must have slept a lot, because that's the main way to heal from a concussion, coincidentally. So, I don't know. I find this whole situation weird. So I can't wait for it to keep going, something to keep an eye on. But right now, it's one of those things, more questions than answers, man. Who the hell knows what's really going on? Seriously. All right, real quick here, the NBA, they've made some changes here to the rules for out-of-bounds plays, right? So here's the new thing with the NBA. First of all, what it specifically says is coaches will be able to challenge some. Now, that's key. Some out-of-bounds plays. If a foul was missed, then a coach can have it challenged and ask it to be reviewed with the coach's challenge. Now, for me, here's the positive, okay? Obviously, some missed calls could be rectified. You look at the Kyrie situation a season ago, right? You can rectify that situation now. But here's the thing, though. Really, it's two things. Number one, some. What are the things that are being left out here? I would love to know that, because nobody seems to know or want to explain it. So, what's the sum that we can't? What's the sum that we can? Is it inside 3 minutes? Is it inside 2 minutes? Is there a time limit, a time frame? Because it does say that it needs to happen expeditiously. So clearly you can't just wait for a play to happen and then try to review it. The NBA loves going back and reviewing things later on and going, oh, look, our bad, but it doesn't change what happened in the game. So there's that situation. And then to me, the other thing is, okay, a foul gets committed. Does that now automatically, regardless of who the ball bounced out on, give it to the person that was fouled? Does it, if we're in the penalty, right? You're over the foul limit. Now are you going to the free throw line and then the ball gets back to whoever would have got it? Or do they get the ball back? Are these like regular free throws, or are these more like technical shots where there's nobody standing there because the ball's going to have to go somewhere else? I mean, seeing how all this is going to play out, I think it's kind of a silly thing, if I'm being honest with you. I think it's one of those things where the NBA did something to kind of appease people, but they didn't really mean anything by it. It's kind of like the symposium that they held a few years ago, right? My big thing was, okay, this is a really cool thing. You've got the big dogs from this year in college. What you're expecting is that you're going to be able to come, you're going to be able to get them in touch with good agents, you're going to be able to educate them on, keeping money and all that kind of stuff, and, how to deal with life in the NBA, life after basketball, whatever the case may be, and then it's trickled down, right? They start telling all the people they know about this. They tell a friend, text messages are being exchanged, phone calls are being made. But my thing was, if they continue to do this every year, phenomenal. But if it's a one-off, then it's all about how they look. It was a one-off. So it was all for naught. So I feel like this is kind of same alley. This is how we look. We look good. So we're going to do this because it'll make us look like we're making an effort, right? We're, even though you're still not allowed to talk about the refs, you're not allowed to, not without a fine anyway, which was getting out of control a season ago. And one of the things that I talked about in January of last year was the major increase in technical fouls. The number in a 10-year time frame was nowhere near what we started seeing in 2021. From 2010 to 2019 or 20, it really wasn't that bad. All of a sudden, 2020, 2021, it just skyrocketed. And the highest number that they had in 2022, they were already halfway there by January of last year. Out of control. I mean, come on, man. Oh, boy, give him the ball. Here you go. Ref. What? Why are you teeing me right now? Really? You don't like the way I handled you the ball? That's a problem. But the NBA is just like, oh, we'll do something. This will look good. No, it doesn't. You still look stupid. Okay, we're running out of time here. Trae Young, real quick, says if he was 6'8", he'd be the best basketball player in the league. Bro, you are not. And I'm going to be clear. You are not AI. All right? You are not the answer. Stop it. You don't get to say that about yourself. Kobe said that about Allen Iverson because it was facts. The NBA needs to be glad that AI ain't 6'6", because that's facts. Now, I'm not saying Trae Young can't ball, and I'm not saying he's not underrated a little bit. And all those New York Knicks fans, and as a Knicks fan, they give him the business every single time with the F Trae Young trance, and he just goes, all right, watch this. Trae can hoop, don't get me wrong, but stop the cap, Brody, because we all know where you got that from. Don't pander to this younger generation that don't know better right now and act like us 40 and ups don't know, because we definitely know, and you ain't getting away with that one. Not on our watch, amigo. All right, everybody, I am Drew Duncan. The show's fired up, and we are live. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan Radio. I am wherever you are listening to podcasts. Tell your device to play Fired Up by Drew Duncan, iTunes, iHeart. Good grief. The show is Underground Sports. Oh, man, I got to get that right. Did Fired Up for way too long. The show is Underground Sports. We're live, underground. Just Google Drew Duncan. I'm going to pop right up, honestly. My IG's probably going to be the first thing that you're going to see, followed swiftly by either my YouTube or my TikTok. So, speaking of YouTube, I'm wherever you're listening to the podcast. Google Underground Sports by Drew Duncan. I'm going to pop right on up, compadre. Guys, you can find me on the HHN TV app, the Hip Hop Network. Download the HHN TV app on all streaming devices, whether it's your smart TV, your iPhone, your iPad, whatever it is, your Droid, your tablet, wherever you are, they are. And, of course, I am on WBFR Block 50 Radio. WBFR Block50radio.com is up live 24/7, 365. Guys, your local programming is next. Don't you dare touch that dial.